Hello and welcome to another tutorial with me, Velen. Today is part 1 of my Mage Gloomfury tutorials. In part 1, we will be mainly focusing on running buffs while doing Gloom. The general principle of this will be basic Gloomfury information, the gear that you will need in order to reach the maximum performance possible, the skills in which we're going to achieve this, and then the rotation and general principles surrounding it. So moving on to the basic information. A purple barrier will appear at the centre between Bloodlust and Vanguard base in Old Fable. This happens at exactly the hour mark. Gloomfury will then spawn at 4 minutes past the hour with a 1 minute invulnerability period before it. In this time, it is generally useful to buff up your teammates and decide who's running what buff, etc. Then, when the timer reaches 0, you will start using your skills and casting. We will get onto the exact order of that later. Then, when Gloomfury dies, the loot is all dropped and it ranks up either by 2 or 1. If it's killed in a slow period of time, it will even rank down. Moving on to the gearing. You are going to want to prioritise intelligence, then haste, then critical, then max damage, then min damage. It is optimal on pieces such as staff, glove and orb to be as high percentage as possible in addition to that. So now we will move on to the skill combinations. How do I use all that gear effectively? You're going to want to either run Aura or Enchant. Between the party members who are mages, you're going to decide who runs which buff. It doesn't affect your DPS which buff you are running. On screen, as you can see, are the skill sets that work. The general principles that you're going to want to apply these skills to throughout the whole length of your run is to use Hypothermic Frenzy, followed immediately by Chilling Radiance, then a large input of skills in between, and then using Chilling Radiance just as it comes off cooldown, and then you wait for another section where you'll be using other skills, and then use it with Hypo again. So that's 1 Hypo to 2 Chilling ratio. Another key principle is that the Ice Bolt gives a slow buff. When this slow buff reaches 5 stacks, the 5th stack becomes Deep Freeze. This increases your damage by 1.5x. You want to pair this with skills such as Shatterfrost, which we'll see in a moment. The last concept that's key to understand is Ice Bolts and Insta Bolts. Insta Bolts occur every 7 seconds where there is no cast time for the bolt, and instead it is 1 global cooldown. This is a bit of a pain for Mage. It would be easier if it didn't exist, but it's worth bearing in mind. To start off your Gloom round, you're going to want to use Candle before Hypo if you own it. If you don't, then just immediately use Hypo, followed by Chilling Radiance, then Skull, and the rest as you can see on screen. If you do have Candle, then you can use the second Hypo just after or just before your second Chilling. So from about 12 seconds on, you're now in the dark. All you're relying on are the general principles that you know about how to maximise your damage. The first one I already mentioned was Hypothermic and Chilling Radiance and using them in combination. The next most important feature is using Shatterfrost with Deep Freeze. Every time you Deep Freeze, you use Shatterfrost. Don't use Shatterfrost unless you are Deep Freezing the boss. Uncle Clone mentioned in his other Mage tutorial for Gloomfury to wait on your Hypo until Deep Freeze Shatterfrost. However, if you have more than 20% haste, do not do this and use Hypo and Chilling whenever they're off cooldown. You need to know which skills to prioritise to maximise that DPS to the very end. So, the highest priority if you have buffs such as Hypo or Skull or Deep Freeze is Shatterfrost. The ice bolts are used to fill in any gaps. Your lowest priority is chilling, as it takes 8 seconds for the damage to fully apply, and any buffs such as hypothermic frenzy you're going to want to use as soon as possible. Now, the length of the round changes greatly your performance and how much damage you can do. It also changes the keen focus of what you are going to be doing. If it's less than 30 seconds, you need to pay a lot of attention in order to get that higher perf. If it's less than 60 seconds, you need to make sure you are watching your hypothermic frenzies and your chillings to ensure that you get the maximum length out of both. Then, onto rounds that are between 60 and 100 seconds, it's all about your charm use. Did you use candle 8 seconds before the boss start? Does it give you time to get a second hypo on your second candle, or only two Shatterfrosts in that deep freeze? Anything greater than 100 seconds is all about keeping consistent and managing hypothermic frenzy with K9s. I hope you found this video informative. In part 2, I will be exploring much more niche orb rotations and the smaller bits of Gloomfury. Anyway, until then, goodbye.